feeling low.
Hi there, my lemon heads, and welcome back to the Lemonade Stand, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brianna. I'm a certified personal trainer, a big, huge biology nerd, and a registered dietitian to be. We're gathered here today for a fun and it's not really that lighthearted video. I was about to say fun and lighthearted, but it's not really that lighthearted. But it is interesting. We're going to chat a bit about food history today, and we're going to talk about the strange and sordid history of Kellogg's Cornflakes cereal. Yeah, I know. Before we proceed, if you love science-based health, wellness, and fitness education with some lulz and some dry sarcasm along the way, lots of dry sarcasm depending on the day, hit that subscribe button and join the Lemonade Stand. I would truly love to have you here. All right. Let's make some lemonade. So I just want to give a teeny bit of brief background on this video before we really dive in. Last week, I was having some writer's block. I just really wanted some video ideas for other talking points. I already have plenty of content for my anti-MLM series, enough content for my Stuff Influencers Say series, reacting to influencer workout series, my True Science series, but I felt like I wanted like a few different specific things to talk about. Like there's a new like weight loss trend or something like that I haven't heard of, some kind of weird social media thing that's going on in the science nutrition space that you guys want me to talk about, and you guys came through and gave me a lot of great ideas. And one of the responses I got was about the history of Kellogg's Cornflakes cereal. I had no idea that that was anything worth looking into, but I did just a really quick brief Google search just in that moment on my phone, and my God. Okay. All right, you got my attention. Because the topic of this video is so specific, I don't know, I don't feel like it fits into like any of my other series. So at first I was like, well, this one can maybe be a random freebie. But then I thought about it more. Funnily enough, I thought about it when I was in the shower this morning. I was like, well, what about if I start a new series that's dedicated completely to food history? So yeah, I guess this is episode 1 of food history. So let's talk about cornflakes now. So in February of the year 1858 in Tyrone, Michigan, a baby boy named John Harvey Kellogg was born, and he was kind of a piece of shit. He wasn't a POS as soon as he was born, though. It was like, later on in life. And all the people right now are like, oh my God, Brianna, that's a baby. Listen, what people seem to forget about babies is they grow up to be adults, okay? They're not sweet, innocent babies forever, okay? And when I tell you guys more about what's going on, you will agree that he was kind of a piece of shit. Also, there's a city in Michigan named Tyrone. Like, is that really what it's called?
Call on Tyrone.
Anyway, so John Harvey Kellogg's parents were John Preston Kellogg and Ann Jeanette Stanley. This Ann lady was actually John's second wife. John was previously married to another lady whose name I couldn't figure out. It's not really that important. But she died, and before that, they had 6 children together. And then John Preston would remarry, and he got married to this Ann lady, and they had 11 children together. So in total, John Preston Kellogg, 17 mouths to feed. Could you imagine? This man could not pull out of a driveway. Anyway, among the 11 children that John Preston Kellogg and his second wife Ann had, in addition to John Harvey Kellogg, there was also William Keith Kellogg. William was John Harvey's little brother. So the children were raised as strict Seventh-day Adventists. If you've not heard of Seventh-day Adventism, it's a religion that's basically a denomination of Christianity. From my understanding, it's basically just like regular Christianity, except they observe and worship on Saturday instead of Sunday. I'm probably just simplified that a lot, but from what I've understood, that is probably one of the main differences. I am not trying to offend you. I have no preference to your religious beliefs at all, unless your beliefs is like kicking puppies down flights of stairs. Feel free to, if you're a Seventh-day Adventist or have been, I don't know, feel free to drop a comment and tell me more of what your religion is like. I don't know. Now, when I'm telling a story like this, I wouldn't normally mention somebody's religion because who cares, right? But it's actually kind of relevant to this story. So now we're going to skip ahead like 2 decades. In 1875, John Harvey Kellogg graduated with his medical degree. He went to the University of Michigan and the Bellevue Hospital Medical College in New York City. Great. Love that for him. So in October of the following year, Dr. Kellogg became director of the Western Health Reform Institute, which in the following year after that, he renamed the facility Battle Creek Medical Surgical Sanitarium. And he actually coined the term sanitarium. And the point of it was to suggest like a combination of both sanitation and like good health and personal hygiene. And he actually remained in charge of the Battle Creek Sanitarium until his death in 1943. So the Battle Creek Sanitarium was operated based on the principles of of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. These principles included a vegetarian diet, abstaining from alcohol and tobacco, and maintaining an exercise regimen. On top of that, Dr. Kellogg was a big advocate for abstinence, and he almost seemed to condemn sex or any sort of sexual related activity. Period. Those self-satisfying activities. You guys know what I'm talking about. And he actually dedicated a lot of his medical education and sharing his medical knowledge to preaching abstinence because of how dangerous he thought sex was. Hello, Alpha. Hello, my little piggy. So yeah, he preached a lot about how dangerous he thought sex was, which, to be fair, in a way it kind of was, because that was during a time period where syphilis was taking people out left and right. Nowadays, however, STIs are really not a huge deal as long as they're treated in a timely manner. So some of Dr. Kellogg's work also centered around nutrition, specifically developing a bland and boring diet, which included 2 meals a day with the goal to completely prevent arousal. And this is kind of where Kellogg's Corn Flakes come into the picture, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Can I just say this guy sounded like such a downer? Can't touch my husband. Can't touch myself. Can't have a lemon drop martini. Can't have a steak. I only get 2 meals a day and it's bland and boring. What the am I supposed to do all day? Oh, and in case anyone was wondering, Dr. Kellogg was actually married. He married a woman named Ella Eaton in 1879. Apparently, based on my research, they slept in separate beds and they had no biological children. And not because they were a trendy, fun, child-free couple like me and my husband. This was because he refused to engage in sex with her, his wife. I wonder if she agreed to that, because if not, I'd be pissed. But even though they didn't have biological children, they actually still went on to have many children because they would actually adopt and foster a lot of children, which sounds great on the surface, but we'll get to it. So at the Battle Creek Sanitarium, some pretty shitty things went on. Since one of the principles that Dr. Kellogg was so hell-bent on promoting was abstinence and any type of sexual anything, a lot of the stuff that happened at the Battle Creek Sanitarium had that in mind, like to promote abstinence and to prevent any sort of excitement. I don't want to say the sex word too many times and get this video demonetized. So one such procedure to help prevent any sort of arousal was circumcising little boys without anesthesia. And that is because Dr. Kellogg believed that the intense pain that they felt during the procedure, because they did not get an anesthetic, would have a, quote, salutary effect upon the mind, especially if it be connected with the idea of punishment, as it may well be in some cases, end quote. That was a direct quote from his book titled Plain Facts About Sexual Life. In addition to this, he also believed that certain devices should be used for males to prevent this, the E word. And he also suggested that carbolic acid, which is a highly toxic acid compound found in tar, be applied to young girls, this word, to deter them from self-gratification. This is how much this man hated sex and masturbation. He appeared to be more than willing to disable, mutilate, and potentially fatally harm children so that they couldn't do it themselves. A few more points about Dr. Kellogg's beliefs surrounding masturbation, the M word. I'm saying that because I'm gonna bleep it in the video when I edit, but just in case somebody knows what I'm talking about, the M word, the self-gratification word. Let's just keep saying that, actually. Some more thoughts about Dr. Kellogg's beliefs about self-gratification, self-satisfaction. He believed that it would cause, I have to look at this list, digestion issues, memory loss, heart disease, epilepsy, and insanity. As a reminder, this was all driven by his religious convictions. I can't even imagine how many children this man is responsible for making them fear sex and self-gratification and just giving them a horribly skewed view on it. Just so everybody knows, just in case we're not all on the same page, emming does not cause any of that stuff. According to PlannedParenthood.org, it's actually a natural thing and it may actually be beneficial to one's health. So if all of that wasn't bad enough, there's just a little bit more I want to tell you guys about Dr. Kellogg. Just a little bit more. Dr. Kellogg was a eugenicist and he also discouraged, quote, racial mixing, end quote. Told you it got worse. Dr. Kellogg, who I can't believe I'm even still referring to him as a doctor, but if he went to medical school and graduated, he technically earned the title, but whatever. Dr. Kellogg founded the Race Betterment Foundation and co-organized several conferences on race betterment, the first of which was held at Battle Creek Sanitarium. He also attempted to create a, quote, eugenic registry, end quote. I don't really know a ton about what that means. I did research that while I was researching this video, but I fell into a rabbit hole, and I feel like getting into it more would just make this video way too long. So we're just gonna keep trucking. A few other things that Dr. Kellogg was in favor of was sterilizing those who he believed to be, quote, mentally defective, end quote. He supported racial segregation, and he also apparently believed that immigrants and non-whites damaged the white American population gene pool, which makes no sense from a biological standpoint, but whatever. So he believed all of this. But remember when I said before that he and his wife fostered and adopted several children? I read one source that said, all my sources are linked below, by the way. One of the sources I came across said that he and his wife fostered a lot of black children. So I feel like it's not that far off to think that the black children being in their home was probably not the best environment for them. Like if this guy was clearly a racist. Anyway, so this guy was a real piece of shit. You guys thought I was exaggerating. Oh my God, Brianna, you're so dramatic. No, I wasn't being dramatic. I was completely floored while researching about this man. I had no idea about like the history of just like the Kellogg family. But anyway, let's move on to the main event. Cornflakes. So one day in 1898, Dr. Kellogg and his little brother, William Keith, remember William, they tried to make granola and they failed miserably. And they ended up accidentally flaking the hell out of some wheat berries instead. And I guess this sparked William's creativity because from there he decided he wanted to kind of keep experimenting. And eventually he was able to figure out flaking corn, which then led to the classic breakfast cereal that we all know and, I mean, maybe not love. Cornflakes. Now, who exactly invented cornflakes seems to vary depending on what source you're looking at. Some say it was John, Dr. Kellogg. Some say it was his brother William Keith. Some sources say it was both of them. Apparently, that's a huge point of contention still, which I don't know why. I mean, they're all dead now. Who gives a shit? And it's also a misconception that cornflakes were invented with the sole purpose of preventing masturbation. That's actually not true. Now, I did mention before that Dr. Kellogg was an advocate for a plain, tasteless, unenjoyable diet to prevent sexual urges, arousal, and masturbation. However, he's never explicitly said that cornflakes were developed specifically for that. But they were the perfect bland and boring food. So he did a few other things in terms of like food research and invention as well, which is not surprising because while I was researching him, another title that came up like under medical doctor was also nutritionist because he did study nutrition science a bit. He actually invented a new way to process peanuts and is even sometimes credited as one of the inventors of peanut butter. Remember, Dr. Kellogg was a vegetarian and he apparently thought that peanut butter was a good alternative to meat. I mean, not really. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely love peanut butter, but it ain't a steak. According to another source I found, Dr. Kellogg apparently collaborated with George Washington Carver in the early 1900s over their ideas about like peanuts, which is strange because based on everything I read, I thought that Dr. Kellogg was like super racist. And as most of us know, George Washington Carver was a black man. He was one of the most influential scientists of the 20th century. He made amazing contributions to agriculture and botany and helped farmers better develop their crops to prevent soil depletion. You know what? Just to stick it to Dr. Kellogg, I'm not giving him any credit for peanut butter. I'm giving it all to George Washington Carver. So that was that. That was the bizarre and twisted story of one of the men behind Kellogg's cornflakes. Really, if you think about it, cornflakes and John Kellogg are really only loosely tied to each other in that cornflakes were a bland, boring food and Dr. Kellogg was an advocate for a bland, boring diet to, you know, prevent arousal and touching yourself and stuff like that. The internet myth that cornflakes were developed specifically to prevent masturbation is just that. It's just a myth. But the story is still quite interesting. Yeah, like I said, Dr. Kellogg kind of sucked. But yeah, there it is. There's the brief but sordid history of one of the creators behind Kellogg's cornflakes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. For me, it was quite a wild and disturbing ride. I certainly learned a lot. I've actually never had cornflakes before, I don't think, and truth be told, I'm glad after learning everything I learned. Anyway, if you made it to this point, comment corn. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more similar content, hit the subscribe button and join the lemonade stand. And yeah, I think that's it. Another big thank you for watching and making it to this point, if in fact you did. And I will see you guys in the next one. Queen Lemon, over and out. Hello, my onyx. Every time you start talking to him, if he's lying down, he starts to roll over for belly rubs. Oh, and here comes this one. Eelfa. Such a big, good stretch, baby. Such a good stretch. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I got pet onyx first. She's still waiting. Doggy. Yes. Okay. You gonna talk back at the end of the video? Alpha, do you have a... Okay. Anything else? Do you have anything you'd like to say about Dr. Yes. Uh-huh. Oh, I think I hear Zeus. There he is. Bye.